Story 1. The tick of his watch. They say every heartbeat hides a countdown. I never believed it, until the night her husband's watch skipped a beat, and she stopped breathing with it. It was 11 p.m. sharp when the watch skipped. Just once, barely enough to notice if you weren't listening for it, but she was. The woman on the bed, Mrs. Hale, she told me, turned her head at that tiny hesitation, like a dog catching a frequency no one else could hear. The room was all marble hush and perfume that didn't belong to either of us. She asked me to leave the light on low, said the shadows helped her breathe. I'd worked in stranger suites before, but never one that felt like it was waiting for someone else to arrive. She sat close, almost touching. Her shoulder brushed my arm, once again deliberate this time. The air between us felt tight, scented with perfume freshly passed. The watch ticked from the nightstand beside the bed, crisp and steady now, each sound threading through her pulse. He liked precision, she said, voice low enough to belong to the sheets. When she turned toward me, the lamplight drew her mouth in slow outline. I told her I didn't mind the ticking. She smiled like she knew I would. I reached across her to adjust the collar of her robe. A polite gesture, something I'd done 100 times before. My fingers brushed the edge of fabric, warm, faintly damp from her skin. Just enough contact to feel the tremor underneath. She didn't move away. The ticking faltered again, a single miss between beats. Her breath caught, shallow, almost synchronized with the lapse. He used to say time tells on you, she whispered, not looking at me. If you lie, it skips. I tried to change the subject, but she leaned closer, so close her voice didn't need distance. The words slid against my ear, soft, deliberate. It hasn't skipped for months, she said. Her breath stayed there a second too long, heat tracing the rim of my jaw. I told myself it was performance, part of the act, but her pulse was real against my sleeve. Then the watch ticked twice in quick succession, correcting itself. She pulled back, smiling too tightly. He must be listening again. The air conditioning hummed, but the room still felt heavy. I noticed her glance toward the door, then at the watch, as if both kept different kinds of time. I poured her a drink, watching the amber light bend through the glass. She didn't touch it. Instead, she asked me to set the watch closer to her side of the bed. He doesn't like distance, she murmured. The metal felt strangely warm in my palm, like it had been waiting for a hand. When I set it down, the ticking grew louder, filling the silence that followed. Under the table lamp, our knees met. Just barely. She didn't pull away. The rhythm of the watch stuttered again, an uneven heartbeat echoing through the room. "Do you hear that?" she asked. I nodded, but she wasn't asking for confirmation. Her eyes stayed on the door. "He times me," she said almost to herself. The words landed between us, thin and fragile. I felt her breath when she spoke again, a whisper that brushed my throat. "He knows how long I stay still." A strand of her hair had fallen across her face. I reached to move it, slow enough for her to stop me if she wanted. She didn't. The tip of my finger grazed her temple, and the skin beneath shivered like it remembered something colder. "Don't look at me like that," she murmured, though she never looked away. The ticking steadied again, each beat settling into the hollow between our breaths. I thought about asking who he was, but the question felt dangerous, like saying it aloud would invite him in. We fell quiet. Not the comfortable kind, the waiting kind. The room seemed to shrink around the sound of us breathing. Her perfume, still new, clung to the back of my throat. The watch clicked once, softer than before, as if cautious. She tilted her head. "Sometimes he stops it when he's near," she said. The silence that followed felt alive, listening. For a moment, I thought I heard another breath join ours, just behind me. I turned, half expecting to see the door moving, but it was closed. Only the mirror across the room reflected us, two people pretending calm. "You're trembling," I said. She smiled without humor. "He hates when I do that." The ticking had vanished completely now. The air pressed in, thick and electric. Then one sharp click. Another. The watch had started again, its rhythm fast and uneven, like a pulse running out of control. She whispered, "He's early tonight." She stood, smoothing her robe. When she passed me, her sleeve brushed my hand, leaving a warmth that shouldn't have stayed so long. The watch gleamed on the nightstand. I reached for it, maybe to stop the sound, maybe to prove it was only a machine. The metal burned cool against my skin. She didn't move to stop me, but her eyes did. "Don't open it," she said, voice almost kind. "He keeps things inside." The scent of her perfume thickened, sweet and sharp. It didn't belong to the room anymore. I should have listened. But curiosity is its own kind of touch. I pressed the latch. The lid sprang open with a sigh too human. Inside, the watch held a photograph, grainy, recent. Her face half-lit. Mine beside hers. That same night. I hadn't seen a camera anywhere. She stepped closer, close enough that her breath warmed my ear. "He likes to keep time with what's his," she whispered. Then, quieter still, "You shouldn't have let it stop." The words trembled like the air before thunder. I left before the sun. The hallway smelled faintly of her perfume, though I never saw her leave the suite. As the elevator descended, a sound rose behind me, soft, deliberate, keeping pace. Tick, tick, tick. I checked my wrist, but my watch was still. The sound followed until the doors closed. I don't wear one anymore. Sometimes, when the room is quiet enough, I still hear it start again. Would you have left the watch running? Story 2. Reflection Service. They say mirrors only lie when someone asks them to. That night, mine decided to tell the truth. It was close to 1 a.m. when the spa finally unlocked the private suite. The air was heavy with eucalyptus and that faint sweetness of bleach. My client waited inside, wrapped in the kind of towel that looked borrowed from a hotel ad. White, too perfect. The mirror across the room caught only half her face. The rest was swallowed by steam that shouldn't have formed yet. I told myself it was just leftover heat from the last booking. She stepped nearer as I set down the oils. Our shoulders almost touched. The perfume, fresh, recent, rose with the sound of water starting in the tub. Light from the salt lamp outlined the curve of her mouth, soft, deliberate. "You're punctual," she said low. Her breath left a thin mist on the glass between us, but only on her side first, or maybe I wanted to think that. She sat on the edge of the tub while I arranged the towels, her knees almost brushing mine. I reached to adjust the collar of her robe, routine, nothing more, but my fingers scraped the warm fabric just long enough for it not to be a mistake. The mirror behind her caught the motion, doubling it like someone else's hand repeating mine. Steam drifted higher, tracing outlines I didn't remember making. Then she spoke again, closer this time. The words didn't need to be whispered, yet they landed against my ear, slow, damp, intentional. "He likes when things look perfect." Her breath lingered, heavier than the humidity. I glanced up. The mirror fogged faster on her side, running downward like a slow exhale. I didn't see anyone else, but the air pressed against my back as if making room. I told her to relax, that the session would help her unwind. My voice sounded foreign in that closed room, like it came through the mist. She smiled faintly and slipped her feet into the water. The steam reached the ceiling, then curled down again, slower, heavier. For a moment, I thought I saw a second outline behind her, broad shoulders, motionless, but the condensation blinked away before I could be sure. She leaned forward to take the glass of infused water I'd poured. Our knees met under the low counter and didn't part. Not immediately. The touch was light, careful, almost polite, but it carried the static of intent. Her eyes didn't move from the mirror. I noticed the reflection fogging again, thickening around us both, except on my side where the glass stayed clear enough to show my own uncertainty. She tilted her head as if listening for something in the pipes. A strand of hair fell across her cheek, and before I could stop myself, I reached out and brushed it aside. The skin beneath my fingertips rose in goosebumps, a shiver that felt rehearsed. Her pulse fluttered at her throat, then steadied. He appreciates small gestures, she murmured, eyes fixed on her own reflection, as though waiting for it to move. We stayed like that, silent, suspended. The room filled with the slow rhythm of the whirlpool, the hush of our breathing. The steam gathered on the mirror's edge, trembling between shapes. Somewhere behind the wall, a faint click broke the quiet, metallic and deliberate. Neither of us turned. The air seemed to thicken around our mouths, as if the suite itself wanted to keep the secret. Her phone buzzed once on the counter, screen facing down. She didn't reach for it. Instead, she whispered, almost to herself, "He's watching the way light touches skin." The words tightened my chest. I looked toward the mirror. Steam had cleared just enough to reveal a dim shape behind the glass, a pinpoint of white that pulsed like a camera's focus light. When I blinked, it vanished, leaving only our damp reflection staring back. She rose from the tub, water sliding off her in thin ribbons. I stepped away, but the heat clung to me, pressing through the fabric of my shirt. The smell of her perfume lingered, too strong now, too precise, like it had been sprayed into the air itself. When she passed, the warmth she left on my arms stayed, a small human brand. I told myself to keep breathing, to stay professional, though the mirror no longer agreed with that version of me. She stopped by the mirror, so near that her breath haloed the glass. "He likes to see what perfection hides," she said, voice almost a vibration. I stood behind her, half expecting the reflection to breathe. Then the phone light blinked again, this time from behind the mirror, not on the counter. She leaned close to my ear, the warmth of her whisper sliding against my skin. "Don't wipe it," she warned. But I did. Her reflection didn't move. The lights flickered once, twice. When they steadied, only my side of the mirror showed breath. She stepped back, collected her towel, and walked toward the door. I followed, numb, the echo of her perfume tracing my path. Out in the hallway, the security mirror caught us both in its curve, then a third figure followed, blurred by the light. I've replayed that moment so many times. Would you still face the mirror? Story 3. Bracelet of Silence. The gold bracelet clicked twice. After that, the city never blinked the same way again. Dusk on the balcony always feels like a secret. The air between us tasted faintly metallic, like the city was exhaling through the glass towers. She held the bracelet in both hands, thin gold, polished warm from her skin, and said it once belonged to her. "To prove loyalty," she murmured, fastening it around my wrist. The clasp clicked twice. Inside, the room glowed amber from the bar lights, and for a moment I thought I heard another breath behind the curtain. Her perfume came late, clean, deliberate, expensive. When she leaned close to check the fit, her shoulder brushed mine. The touch barely counted, yet the bracelet grew warmer where her fingers lingered. The city below hummed. I caught my reflection in the sliding door, two outlines almost touching, and behind them a third shadow. That didn't belong to either of us. She asked if I believed in keepsakes, things that carry memory in the metal. I smiled, adjusting the collar of her dress where it had turned in the back. My fingers grazed the fabric, warm and smooth, enough to feel the pulse beneath it. The gesture was meant to be polite, but her breath caught anyway. The bracelet pressed tighter against my wrist as if listening. Her voice came closer than I expected. Each word brushed my ear with the weight of a secret, slow and even. "You look better with it on," she whispered. The city outside blinked in intervals, a plane descending through the fog, or maybe signals. Her lips stopped moving before the sentence ended, but I still felt the rest of it, right against my skin. Dinner came late. She ordered for both of us, never asking what I wanted. Between courses, her phone buzzed across the table. She didn't look at it. I did. The name on the screen was just an initial. Every vibration made her flinch, just enough for the silverware to tremble. The bracelet pulsed faintly against my wrist, holding a warmth that wasn't mine. Our knees found each other beneath the table. Neither of us moved away. Her laughter came too light, practiced. Then another buzz, shorter this time. She read it without turning the screen fully, just a sliver of glow reflecting off her eyes. One word half whispered, "Stay." My phone lit up next, though I hadn't felt it ring. A message I didn't recognize, "Keep him still." I reached across to steady the wine glass she'd almost tipped. A strand of hair clung to her cheek, trembling with her breath. Without thinking, I brushed it aside. My fingertips met her skin, cool then suddenly alive. A shiver passed through her, small but complete. For a second I thought she'd pull back. Instead, she smiled, eyes fixed somewhere behind me like someone else was approving the moment. The silence afterward felt trained, obedient. Even the city outside seemed to lower its sound. We sat there, breathing into the same small rhythm, until the hum of the refrigerator became too loud to ignore. She reached for her phone again, but this time it didn't light. I heard a faint click instead, from the balcony door. Not open. Locked. She rose without a word, walking to the glass. The city lights stretched beneath us, rows of gold and red blinking in rhythm. I joined her, the air cooler near the balcony door. "Do you see that?" she asked. The pattern in the skyline wasn't random. It pulsed 3 times, paused, then 3 again. She touched the glass, leaving a faint print that lingered even after she pulled her hand away. When she turned back, her smile looked rehearsed. I felt the bracelet tighten, a slow constriction that made the skin beneath it itch. I tried to unfasten the clasp, but the hinge wouldn't give. "It only opens from the inside," she said softly. The words didn't sound like hers. When she finally stepped back, I caught a scent, her perfume sharper now, and the ghost of warmth her body had left behind. She came close again, too close for comfort or distance. Her breath brushed the side of my neck, hot, deliberate, trembling at the edge of a whisper. "You shouldn't have worn it," she said. The words slipped through me like static. When I turned, her lips were at my ear, but the voice that followed came from behind, lower, male, repeating the same sentence. My reflection in the glass stood between 2 silhouettes now. I yanked at the bracelet. It came loose with a dull snap, leaving a red imprint, 3 small initials pressed into the skin, none of them mine. The lights outside blinked one final time before going dark. When I looked back, she was gone. The air still held her perfume, calm and new, as if she'd only stepped into another room. I left before dawn. But in the morning, when I reached into my pocket, the bracelet was waiting there, still warm. Would you wear something that wasn't meant for you? Story 4. Rear view appointment. It was supposed to be just another midnight ride. But when the mirror started lagging behind my movements, I realized I wasn't the only one in the car. It was raining hard enough to blur the city into streaks of chrome and red. Midnight, almost on the dot. She said her husband's car would be waiting, black sedan, engine on, no questions. I'm used to quiet clients, but not the kind who send someone else's vehicle. The wipers moved like a metronome for a song I didn't know. When I slid into the passenger seat, the smell hit first. Clean leather, faint cologne, something colder underneath, like wet metal. She smiled from the driver's side without turning her head. "Seat's warm," she murmured. "That's part of the arrangement." Our shoulders almost touched when I fastened my belt. Her perfume was recent, still fighting the rain. A light citrus over skin heat. The glow from the dashboard drew a line along her mouth, slow and deliberate. I adjusted the rearview mirror to avoid staring, and caught another pair of eyes just behind us, flashing in the dark before the angle settled. I blinked hard. Nothing there. Only the rhythmic wipers, and that smell of metal again, heavier now. She leaned closer to plug her phone into the console, and the scent of her hair blurred whatever thought I had left. I reached to straighten her collar, professional reflex, I told myself, but my fingers brushed the warm fabric of her blouse. Just enough contact to feel her pulse beneath. She didn't pull away. The mirror caught the motion half a second late, like the car was remembering it before I did. Her voice came low, almost lazy. "You like control, don't you?" The words ended against my ear, not my face. Breath, slow, practiced, warming the edge of my jaw. I meant to answer, but the speakers hummed instead, a crackle in the static before a whisper bled through. "Seatbelt for both." She laughed, soft, uncertain whether it was the radio or her conscience. I wasn't sure either. Rain pressed harder against the windshield, a steady hiss that made the cabin feel smaller. She talked about the route, how her husband liked precision, every turn timed. I nodded, pretending not to notice how her eyes kept flicking to the mirror. The glass trembled once, just slightly, as if something behind us had breathed too close. "Loose roads tonight," she said. "They shift when you don't hold them tight." I smiled, though my hands were colder than they should have been. Her knee brushed mine under the console, an accident maybe, but she didn't move it. The static returned, faint but pulsing. I tried adjusting the volume, and the knob resisted, stiff like someone else's hand had already been there. For a second, the mirror showed her head tilted toward me, mouth open as if whispering. But in real time she was watching the road. "You feel that too?" she asked. I didn't answer. The mirror lagged again, and my reflection smiled half a second late. A strand of her hair slipped across her cheek. Without thinking, I reached over and brushed it back. The skin beneath shivered, just once, like static meeting breath. "Cold hands," she murmured, but her tone wasn't complaint. The next blink of headlights carved her profile in silver, and for a heartbeat the mirror showed two versions of her. One still driving, one staring straight at me. Both vanished when the light passed. We fell into silence so thick it almost hummed. The rain softened, but the wipers kept their rhythm, unwilling to stop. I could hear both of us breathing, the air thick with warmth and that trace of metal, sweet now like heat on coins. Then, through the speakers again, the whisper returned, "Seatbelt for both." This time it wasn't a glitch. It came in her voice, layered over her real one. She froze, fingers gripping the wheel too hard. A sharp click came from the back, trunk latch shifting. The dash lights dimmed for half a second, just long enough for the mirror to flash white. She exhaled like she'd been waiting for that sound. "It does that," she said too quickly. But the smell that followed wasn't mechanical. It was warm, human, like someone had opened a coat after rain. I turned halfway in my seat, but the darkness behind us stayed unbroken. When I faced forward again, the mirror had angled itself down, framing the hollow of my throat. She eased off the gas. My skin still burned where her sleeve had touched me, a heat that didn't fade. "We're almost there," she whispered, though no destination had been named. The mirror flickered. For an instant I saw her watching me, not the driver but her reflection, smiling too wide. When she leaned back, a faint warmth lingered against my neck. It smelled like perfume and breath and something else I can't name. Something that shouldn't have known my scent. She turned to say something, but the voice reached me first, from right beside my ear, close enough to stir the hair there. "Don't look back yet." Her lips didn't move. The sound came from behind my shoulder, soft, familiar, wrong. I stared at her hands on the wheel. They trembled, but not from fear. The mirror twitched again, showing the faint shape of someone leaning forward between us. I could feel the weight of that unseen breath sliding along my neck. "Would you check the mirror, or keep driving?" At the next light, the car slowed on its own. Rain had stopped. The wipers kept moving anyway. She was gone, or maybe had never been there, but the passenger seat still held the warmth of skin. In the rear view, the empty back seat breathed once, shallow and wet. Then stillness. The light turned green. The sedan stayed put, engine idling, mirror aimed at nothing but the dark pulse of my throat. Story 5. The key inside the room. They said the door would be unlocked. But when I turned the handle, someone was already inside. The hallway outside her apartment was too quiet. Expensive quiet. The kind that swallows footsteps and turns your own breathing into background noise. I'd been told she'd leave the door unlocked. Routine, safe, discreet. But when I tried the handle, it held. Then, a key turned once from the other side. I froze inches from the door. Pause. Then the faintest click of a lock settling. Perfume drifted under the frame, sharp, recent, familiar. The kind that sits just behind the throat. Someone was inside, moving slowly. The light beneath the door trembled as if a shadow passed over it. I knocked once, light enough to seem polite. The sound barely carried. I almost turned to leave when a soft voice, hers, said something I couldn't make out. I leaned closer. My fingers brushed the edge of the door, then the cool metal of the handle. "It's me," I whispered. Nothing moved. Just that perfume again, warmer now, as if the air itself remembered skin. My phone buzzed. A message from her name, one word, wait. The typing dots appeared, stopped. Then her name vanished, replaced by her husband's. The same thread. The same chat. I stared at the screen while a voice on the other side breathed close to the keyhole, too close. The silence afterward felt heavy, deliberate. I stepped back, phone still in hand. The corridor lights flickered once. Cheap wiring in an expensive place. I told myself I could leave, that nothing good ever started with a locked door and the wrong name on a message. Yet my feet stayed. I heard the softest sound from inside, the handle testing itself once, then still. I set my palm against the door, meaning to steady myself. Heat met me, someone's hand on the other side mirroring mine. The wood vibrated between us just barely. Then came a slow knock. 3 beats, spaced like breathing. My pulse matched it. I didn't know if I wanted the door to open or not. I leaned close enough to smell the varnish, the trace of her perfume still clinging to it. "Are you there?" I asked. The door gave no answer, but a faint scrape traveled down from the peephole, metal against metal like a key being drawn out too slowly. My breath fogged the surface. I didn't realize how near I was until the wood cooled my lips. A minute passed, maybe more. The air turned thick, damp, full of waiting. Then my phone buzzed again, a message marked read, but no reply. Inside, something shifted, soft fabric over skin, a heel brushing the floor. The sound of someone leaning closer. Then, nothing but our shared breathing, slow, synchronized through the door. I thought about calling out again, but the sound would have broken something fragile. Whatever thin thread still held me there. Instead, I watched the handle, waiting for it to move. A single metallic breath filled the air, followed by the clean click of the lock releasing. The latch lifted. The door opened half an inch, then stopped. I didn't push it. Couldn't. The scent inside was stronger now. Perfume mixed with something warmer, like electricity after a storm. I reached out and felt the edge of the door tremble beneath my fingertips. On the nightstand beyond, I could see a key glinting under the lamp, perfectly placed, waiting. A tag hung from it, my initials, etched in neat black ink. I stepped inside. The air felt newly disturbed, though nothing seemed touched. A faint warmth still lingered where someone had been sitting. Then a whisper brushed my ear, soft, deliberate, using my name. I turned, but the room was empty. The balcony door was closed. Still, the echo came again, closer this time from the space behind me. "Would you wait for the right key to turn?" When I finally left, I made sure the door was locked from the inside. The hallway camera later showed it never opened. Yet the next morning when I woke in my own bed, that same apartment key lay on my nightstand, still warm, still carrying her perfume. I keep it now, though I don't remember how I got home.